think about when we were all growing up, y'all are younger than I am, I think all of you, but if I was really mad at my parents and I wanted to get at them, push their buttons, I would have said, I want to run away from home.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We do not hear kids say that anymore. I mean, I've maybe heard one child say that in the last 5 years.
Totally. That was the thing of all things to get
right.
your parents.
I'm going for the jugular.
Yeah.
And now they say, y'all know what they say.
Yeah.
Kill myself.
I'm going to kill myself. Kids as young as 8. And kids are no longer saying, I'm worried or I'm stressed. They're saying, I have anxiety. They're not saying I'm sad.
Yep.
They're saying I'm depressed. If I hear one more girl talk about toxic relationships, and trauma, I mean, we are overusing the words, all of those words, to the point. I talked about this. I was so excited for them to get to this. I have one high school group I meet with every week. And last week, we did this thing where I wanted them to talk about how they define themselves in their own heads, how they felt like other people defined them, and how they wanted other people to define them, how they wanted to be defined. And first we talked about culturally how they're defining themselves, kids today. And one of them said, I think we're defining ourselves by mental health issues. And she said, this is a junior in high school, and she said, when we do, we learn to only look at the negative, because that's what we're drawn to. And I just was so grateful that she would sit there and say that in front of this group of kids, several of whom do that. That would be one of the first things they say about themselves. I have anxiety, or, I've been through this trauma. And there's no other thing that we define ourselves by a struggle like that.
Yes.
And I think it not only moves them toward the negative, but I think it also, for other kids who genuinely are struggling with those things, it makes the words lose their meaning. So if they're not at a 10, no one's going to listen to them, which is what the girl said to me.
Do you think how did we get there? Because for years, we've just ignored mental health. Right. And so we've gone from 0 to 10. We have not self-regulated.
Yes, that's a great way to say that, Chris. Yes.
How did we go? How did we get there? And then moving forward, is this just? I don't necessarily think, and I think I agree with everything you're saying. We have jumped here, but now this is the new normal.
Right.
We're not going to pull people back from this and say, hey, let's take a more rational look at this.
Right.
This is what it is. So what do we do with it then? To moving forward?
I think part of how we got there is, let me tell you a story that I think is a great picture of how we got there. So we use this computer program called Therabill that is, tells us why people are coming. It's our appointment scheduling. And I had a little 8-year-old girl who was coming in for anxiety. And I knew that by looking at Therabill, and I came down the stairs of the Daystar house. You can picture it, but my office is upstairs, and I got to the bottom, and I could see this little girl across the lobby. And if you're not watching us, if you're just listening, I have a really enormous smile, and I smiled at the little girl and waved at her, and she smiled and waved back at me, and I walked over and said, I'm Sissy. I'm so excited you're at Daystar. I'm going to take you on a tour of the Daystar house, and then we're going to go upstairs and meet my little dog, Lucy, that you're going to love. And y'all, this cute little girl popped up to follow me. And her mom grabbed her arm and said, do you feel comfortable with that? Which, it had never occurred to her not to feel comfortable following the therapist that her mom was bringing her to meet with until her mom said that. And then her very well-intentioned mom followed us on the whole tour, sat across the hall, I think watched my door the whole time. And then I brought her in, and y'all know where this is going. I said, tell me about your family history. And she said, well, I had severe anxiety as a child, and my parents never understood what was going on with me. So now I'm determined to understand. And I think that's part of what's happened is a lot of us didn't grow up with parents who were in therapy. You're like the exception to the rule. But we weren't passing feelings charts around the dinner table. We just weren't having healthy conversations. So we're overcompensating. And we're almost over-attending to the emotions of kids. And so I say to parents all the time, whatever we pay the most attention to is what's most reinforced. And I think we pay more attention to when they're having a hard time, when they have big feelings, than when they're doing okay. And when we're talking about gratitude and those kind of things. So I'm not saying don't talk about feelings, obviously, but I think we've overcompensated. And then I think these kids are watching Netflix. I mean, what was that ridiculous show, 13 Reasons Why? I have never been as angry at a show in the history of time as I was about that show. But I think that feels indicative of, we can't just watch teenagers who don't feel comfortable within their own skin, and they feel angsty and they feel sad and all the emotions that every teenager for centuries. Jesus, I'm sure, felt all those things because they're part of our development. But we are now showing self-harm and we're showing suicidal ideation as a part of all that. And that looks normal. And for kids who lean dramatic, that must be what I'm feeling, Yeah. And so now we've just lost that sense of normalcy. I love the liturgy of ordinary time. Like, I feel like we need to live in ordinary time with kids. They need that sense. And so
say something about that.
Well, I was just going to say to the other part of your question, I think one of the things we need to do, I know we can't walk it back, but I think for us to say things in front of kids like, I was really sad today when X happened, or, I felt like such a failure. And it was hard for a little bit. And then I remembered, I can do things, I can do this. And we're talking about our own resilience. We're modeling it for them. They're hearing us use language, and that we're making sure we're paying as much attention to the positives in their life as we are the negatives.